right, we're ready for our language lesson for lesson 5. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember, your book is on Google Classroom, so if you ever wanted to print it out or you can't find it on here or whatever, you can go back to Google Classroom. All right, so in the last lesson, lesson 4, which I don't think you really even did anything, we kind of did it together. We learned about common and proper nouns. Common noun is a name common to many persons, places, things, or ideas. Scientist, city, holiday, those are all common nouns. A proper noun is a special proper name for a person, place, thing, or idea. Albert Einstein, Detroit, Labor Day, those are all proper nouns. They always begin with a capital letter. Now, the names of deities are also proper nouns. Deities is another name for gods and goddesses. So follow along as I read this list of deities. In exercise 1, God, Jehovah, Allah, Zeus, Osiris, and Thor. All right. Now Zeus, Allah is the name of the false god in Islam. Zeus is the Greek mythological god. Osiris is an Egyptian god of the underworld. And Thor was the Norse god of thunder, weather, and crops. All right, so the days of the week are also capitalized. We have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the days of the week. All right, so the days of the week are also named for pagan gods and goddesses. Follow along as I read aloud the right-hand column in exercise 2 of our workbook. Look at the spelling of the name of the god or goddess and see if you can figure out which day of the week was named for him or her. Draw a line in your sense. You can just write the days of the week down the page, and then you can write A, B, C, D, E, F, G, or you can write it out. Doesn't matter to me, whatever you want to do. All right, so named after the Norse god Tyr or Tyr. I don't know how you pronounce that. All right, I'm not going to give you the answers. We're going to go over this later. B, named after the Roman god Saturn. C, named after the pagan Roman holiday Dies Lunae, day of the moon. D, named after the Norse god Thor. E, named after the pagan Roman holiday Dies Solis, day of the sun. And F, named after the Norse goddess Frigg. I would hate to have that name. Hey Frigg, come here. And G, named after the Norse god Woden. It's weird. All right. So in the months of the year, are also capitalized. January, February, same thing, all the way through to December. Now the months of the year are named for Latin words, Roman gods or goddesses, and famous Roman men. It says for me to read these to you and let you do them just like we did the days of the week, but there's a lot of them, and I don't want to keep you on the computer for all that long. You're well enough to read yourself. So do the same thing that we did on the days of the week. Read through each one of those. It's not a graded thing, but just it should be pretty easy for you to figure out which one goes with which. So if you'll go ahead and do that, you can pause it or you can do it later, whatever you want to do. Now, your job right here is to look at the calendar, and you're going to write the name of the month. It says the instructions are to write the date correctly. First, you write the name of the month, capitalize it, and you write the number of the day, put a comma. Yeah, so right here, you're just going to put the day. You'll just write that on exercise 4. You'll write it correctly. Now, you know there's different ways that we write it. Like today is April the 20th. I don't know, you may be doing this April the 21st or whatever. So you'll write April 20th, comma, 2020. Like I said, there's different ways that we write it, you know, but just write the date. That's all you have to do. All right. The names of the seasons, spring, summer, fall, winter, those are not capitalized. You do not capitalize the names of the seasons. Now in exercise 5, we're going to underline the name of the season after we've read the poem aloud. 2 of the poems have seasons. Now, L-E-A is pronounced Lee. It is a grassland pasture. And in this poem, a child is pretending that he and his friends are pirates aboard their ship, even though they are just really in the meadow. So I'm guessing, well, if you were following along with the page, you would just underline it. But you don't have to. Just listen for the seasons, okay? From A Pirate Story by Robert Louis Stevenson. 3 of us afloat in the meadow by the swing. 3 of us abroad in the basket on the lee. Winds are in the air, they're blowing in the spring, and waves are on the meadow like the waves there are at sea. So you've got spring. Here's another one. From Autumn Fires by Robert Louis Stevenson. Sing a song of seasons, something bright in all, flowers in the summer, fires in the fall. I like that one. Fall and summer are in those. See, they're not capitalized. Now from Bed in Summer by Robert Louis Stevenson. In winter, I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer, quite the other way. I have to go to bed by day, meaning the sun is still up. So you've got summer, winter. It just wants you to see that they are not capitalized. Okay, we'll move on to exercise 6. The first, last, and other important words in the titles of books, magazines, and newspapers are capitalized. Read aloud the titles in exercise 6 and circle the capital letters in each title. It might be good for you to write these down. It's always a good idea to practice writing titles because it kind of takes a little practice to get everything exactly right. Now here's some books. The Tale of Peter Rabbit and The Trumpet of the Swan. Notice the first and the last word, no matter what they are always capitalized. The only words in between there that are capitalized are the ones that are important. And you might say, well, how do you know if they're important? Well, of the, not important. Trumpet, important. You'll begin to see. Jack and Jill, and is not important, but the first and the last must be. National Geographic Kids Magazine, all of those are important words. So those words that are not important are words like of and the and to and things such as that. Here you have the newspapers. So it would be a good idea for you to write these down and make sure you write them down correctly. When you see the titles of books, magazines, and newspapers in print, these titles are printed in italic letters. See these? Magazines, they're written a little differently. But when you handwrite the titles of books, magazines, and newspapers, you underline them. Using your best handwriting, copy one title of a book, magazine, or newspaper from exercise 6. Okay, so there you go. I didn't read ahead. It's telling you to just take one of these up here and write them. But what you need to see, not only do you need to see what's capitalized and what's not, but you also need to know the different ways of writing and typing them. If you type the names of books, magazines, and newspapers, you put them in italics. But if you write them by hand, you can't write in italics. So you underline them, if that makes sense. So you'll take one of each and write them correctly there. Okay, so you can pause it or you can go ahead and do it later, whatever you want to do. Okay. Titles of stories, poems, and songs are also capitalized the same way, only the first and the last, and then any of the important ones in between. Okay. Now, these titles are put in quotation marks rather than being italicized or underlined. Okay. So you've got the Ransom of Red Chief, the Golden Touch. These are stories from books. Now, whatever the name of the book is, would be written like a book. It would be either italicized or underlined, depending on if it was typed or handwritten. But the stories in a book have quotation marks around them. Same thing with poems in a book. They just have quotation marks around them. Songs have quotation marks around them. So do the same thing here. Choose one of the stories, one of the poems, and one of the songs. And write those down. Make sure you put quotation marks around those. Okay. So here is exercise 8. These are the capitalization rules that we've learned so far in this book. It'd be good for you to write these down, whatever you need to do if you struggle with that. But it's really good for you to read them out loud to yourself. So you do want to do that. All right, let's look at the dictation exercise. It says to dictate the titles the student copied in exercises 6 and 7 of this lesson. Check for proper underlining, quotation mark, and capital letters. There you are. Okay, so then let's do that. Let's go ahead and if you'll get your, let's see, this is lesson 5 dictation. Get your pen or pencil ready. I'm going to name one of these books that you wrote, and don't look back, okay? The Tale of Peter Rabbit. That's the book that I want you to write. Make sure you write it correctly. The Tale of Peter Rabbit. You need to remember what's uppercased and if it's underlined or if whatever it needs to be. Quotation marks, whatever. The Tale of Peter Rabbit is the book. Okay, the magazine I'd like for you to write is Jack and Jill. Okay, the newspaper I'd like for you to write is the New York Times. Okay, the story I want you to write is The Golden Touch. The poem, If. And the song that I want you to write, This Land is Your Land. This land is your land. Okay. So that ends lesson 5. So you'll be ready to start lesson 6 tomorrow. So make sure you finish that. Let me know if you need any help.